Would you call the roll, please?
Robert Kraus,
Present.
Jason Blair, Kathy Griffith,
Here.
Terry Kavner, David Roberts,
Here.
Mark Ham,
Here.
Glenn Lewis.
Here. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Item 2 is the consent docket. Item A is receive and approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held June 4th, 2012. Item B is approve the minutes of the regular Parks Board meeting held April 3rd, 2012. Item C is appoint Janie Milam to the Board of Adjustment for a 3-year term. Item D is approve a contract with the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, ACOG, to provide transportation planning activities as identified in the 2012-2013 Unified Planning Work Program. Item E is approve an easement to OG&E to provide power to the wastewater treatment plant in the Part 2 of the south half of Section 35, Township 10 North, Range 3 West. Item F is approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2011-2012 in the amount of $1,369,696.69.
Make a motion to approve.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on these items? Anybody get their claims questions answered? Any notes or changes to the minutes? If not, would you call for the vote?
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 3 is receive a report from Cobb Engineering regarding feasibility of constructing a railroad underpass at 12th Street or 4th Street.
Mayor, you may recall, certainly recall that a few months ago, the council authorized us to have a study done of the feasibility of a new railroad underpass at one of the 2 locations that you mentioned, 12th Street or 4th Street. We hired Cobb Engineering to do that. I handed out a copy of the report to the council members at the last meeting. Taylor Barnes with Cobb is here, is going to give a short presentation to you all, just so you'll have hopefully a good understanding of that. And then we can discuss what do we do next at some point.
Okay, great.
So Taylor, if you'll go ahead.
Thanks, Steve. Mayor and council, we appreciate the opportunity to work on this study. My name is Taylor Barnes, and Kyle Morris is here with me. He assisted one of our engineers. I do have a few slides to go through to show the basics of what we looked at and what the results were, so we'll jump right into that. Just real quick, the study purpose, what we were tasked to do was look at the feasibility and cost to construct railroad underpasses at 4th Street and 12th Street. We wanted to be sure as part of that to include what we call the no build option. So if it wasn't built, what would the impacts be primarily to traffic, and come to a conclusion of the best and most feasible option. So real quick, I want to give a little bit of information. Traffic is obviously the driving force of projects like these. Just for comparison's sake, and this is all in the report, but I thought I would highlight some of it in this presentation. At 4th Street, we have a current ADT of about 19,000 vehicles per day. And at 12th, we have about 14,500. So what we did is use a 2% growth rate over 30 years to project that out. And at 4th Street, we get 34,400 vehicles, and at 12th, we get 26,300. So those are estimates we used as the basis of design and anticipating what could happen in the future. And then also along with traffic information is a train schedule as the point of the study and what a project could be. And information from BNSF told us we have 23 trains a day on average, moving at average speed of 24 miles an hour and average length of 5,900 feet, which kind of surprised me. That's heavy traffic and a pretty long train, and you're also complicated by Flynn Yard. And switching that happens due to that, and even longer delays, as I'm sure many people have experienced with trains sitting on the siding tracks or on the main track at those crossings. We wanted to take a look at accident information. We did not have any for 12th Street, but on 4th Street, we did not have any vehicle-to-train collisions that were noted, and that's off of the Department of Transportation's report. They keep a 5-year running history on accidents. There were significant accidents at the intersection with Santa Fe Avenue, it looked like, from turning movements, that type of thing, which could be impacted by traffic queued up, waiting for a train to cross. It wasn't really described that way.
Just as a point of information, Santa Fe is the name of the little side street there right immediately east of the railroad tracks,
East of the rail.
not Santa Fe on the west side of town.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And so at each location, we basically considered 3 alternatives. One of those being the no-build option, as I mentioned. What happens if we don't build an underpass? And then what does it look like if we rebuild on existing alignment? And whether or not a detour should be provided or possibly close the road. And then the third option at each location was to build the new on an offset alignment off to the side of existing. And what would those impacts and costs be? These drawings, I had 2 drawings, one for 4th Street and one for 12th Street. These were included in the report. They are a little tough to see on the overhead projectors here, but I'll just go ahead and talk through it. And if you have any questions on anything that I say, we can certainly clarify that. At 4th Street, that's the slide shown here. In considering the no-build option, obviously an advantage is the city avoids the costs and all the impacts incurred in the project. In looking at traffic and what happens in the future with the train schedule, we anticipate that the queue that would develop would be significant enough that it would back up into the Broadway Avenue intersection, which would present a problem at that point. And I don't, that was somewhere around 20 to 25 years into the future that I think that point, that we felt like, based on those assumptions, that point could happen. Building on existing alignment, on 4th Street, we would be required to have a detour because it is a state highway, and the most logical place to have a detour would be off to the south. And if you can see these overheads, the 4th Street is running east and west, and the railroad is right in the middle. If you can see the red lines, that's a conceptual layout for a railroad shoe fly. So that's the center point of the project there. And at 4th Street, there is room to build a detour or offset alignment south of existing. There's enough frontage between the street and the school property there to allow that to happen. However, there are significant impacts to the commercial property on the north side of 4th Street, primarily with access. We would have retaining walls all the way through the extent of the project because of the excavation that's required. So any kind of street or frontage right up against off of 4th Street would be blocked. So that would be an issue. As I said, the intersection with Santa Fe had accidents, and it would have to be closed as a result of this project. There are sanitary sewer and water utilities along here that would be impacted and would have to be relocated as part of the project. At 4th Street, there's not a good outfall for drainage, so a pump system would be required, and that's a costly item that would have to be included in the project, as well as the space required to house those facilities. And as I mentioned, the disruption of Broadway Avenue traffic would be a long-term issue with the no-build, but also would be impacted during construction of this project. Due to the grades, the conceptual layout was based on 5% grades down under the underpass and back up, which is fairly steep. And we did that to minimize the length of it, but we still get right up to the intersection of Broadway, and that could be handled during construction, but it definitely impacts traffic flow during the project. But this is, as far as comparing the two sites, 4th Street presented a better option for either offsetting slightly to the south or putting a detour south of existing alignment, which 12th Street didn't offer. If we built on an offset alignment, which, to point that out, if you can see the black lines south of the existing road, there's a few black lines laid out there. That would be a location for a detour or the offset alignment. And if we could slide that slightly south, that 4th Street allows may allow an opportunity to minimize some of those impacts to those commercial properties, but not get rid of them, but possibly not impact them quite as bad. Moving on to 12th Street. Shown, oops, wrong button. There we go, 12th Street. Similar layout shown in this slide with the railroad is up and down in the middle of the drawing, and 12th Street's running east and west across the middle of the drawing. We have black lines shown on this drawing to the south, which would represent an offset alignment or a detour alignment in this concept. And there's also some lines shown to the west of the existing railroad as a temporary rail alignment. I failed to mention that on the 4th Street scenario, but there would be an impact to property due to that shoe fly for the railroad. Let me back up to that slide. Shown in red there, we would have to acquire a part of the school property there, the warehouse property, to get that built, or else the commercial property to the north of 4th Street. Either way, there's impacts with building the rail shoe fly at 4th. Same scenario at 12th, a rail shoe fly off to the west or the east would impact commercial property. A detour, offset alignment to the north or the south would impact commercial property as well. The impacts at 12th were much greater at 4th. We've got commercial property south and north of 12th. And we also showed 3 residential takes at 12th Street to provide access to the air park property. There's several commercial businesses within that air park property, and felt like access would need to be maintained. So access right off at 12th will be blocked because of retaining walls due to the grade going down underneath the rail. So as a result of looking at these, we laid out the costs that we anticipate for each one, and these would be inclusive of construction, utility relocations, engineering, everything all the way through to get the project complete. And we've got costs at 4th Street to build on existing alignment of about $12.5 million. If we build on an offset alignment, we were looking at about $11.5 million, mostly saving the cost of the detour. 12th Street, building on existing alignment was $13.1 million, and then building on an offset alignment was $11.3 million. As you can see, the costs at 12th Street in general are bigger because of the impacts of the commercial properties that would have to be accounted for as part of that project. That's the end of my presentation. If there's any questions, anything that we'd like to discuss as part of this, we'd be happy to take those at this time.
It is, go ahead.
Is there any possibility that the railroad company would consider building another one at 12th Street? Would it help? Didn't they build one at 27th Street when they built that?
They built that some years ago when they built the Flynn Yard that he mentioned. Yeah.
But they're satisfied? I mean, the trains are long and there have been significant delays if you have to cross the tracks. It seems like you always hit them. Is there a possibility that they would consider?
I would almost be willing to say virtually 100% that they would not participate. You may remember whenever the city rebuilt the current underpass at 19th Street, which was in about the mid-90s. We had to pay all of the railroad cost. There's a significant amount of administrative cost with the railroad and all of that we had to pay, plus the city bore, I'm sure that I remember that the city bore 100% of the cost of that bridge. So I really think there's no chance of that.
Okay.
You said there's a pretty elaborate pumping system if we put one in at 4th Street. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be. It's you know, it'd be designed to generator, pump house, everything to run fully functional all times of the day. So it's a pretty costly item.
Right.
A lot of parts to it.
What kind of upkeep is there on something like that? Is it pretty costly to maintain that over the years, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to answer that question
Okay.
right
Okay,
now.
Sure. Okay.
In any of your studies, did you find if 4th or 12th experiences any more delays, one versus the other, due to trains stopped? I think it's more prevalent on 4th Street. Don't they stop there quite a bit more often than they do on 12th?
Yeah, the 4th Street has 2 tracks crossing, whereas 12th just has 1 track crossing. And one of those tracks would be a siding track, so I might have lost my view. Here it is. Yeah, 4th Street, I think, would have higher delays because of that siding track, and the operations with Flynn Yard would use that to park a siding of cars to make switches with the main line.
And isn't Broadway closer to the railroad tracks on 4th than it is at 12th that goes out, the distance between Broadway and 12th
Right,
Street?
starts to veer out.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12th Street had, in the no-build scenario, when we're looking at those traffic queues, 12th Street had enough room in the 30 years in the future to actually store those vehicles on the street without impeding into another major intersection. That's based on the train schedule that I mentioned, and not so much what the BNSF does with switching and delays of half an hour or 20 minutes or whatever it may be.
Did they give you any idea when you were looking into this, how many trains have stopped over the years and over past
No,
years?
we did not consider that. That's something that, we'd have to take, obviously we'd have to just take over a period of time some field observation
Right.
to do that, if that's something that we could do, if you guys desire that, to have that
Yeah, I was
accounted
just
for.
kind of curious if you had that data or not, but.
No, I do not currently.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, it sounds like almost like maybe 4th Street, in your opinion, would be the better location then?
Right, yeah, I didn't mention what our recommendation came to, but building on 4th Street did appear to be the better option. There is room to the south of the existing road to have a detour and get construction completed. There's a bigger picture to that too, that it is a state highway, and it could not only serve the citizens of Moore in a better way, but also just a general transportation corridor, and it does have the higher traffic count, so it would be serving a larger number of vehicles per day.
Which also complicates it much more too, in terms of getting ODOT involved.
Correct.
Norman is currently building one very similar to what we're talking about here at Robinson Street. They had a much more significant right-of-way take, so I think theirs is up close to $20 million. Norman's been planning this for many years. I'm sure at least 10 years. I think there is some federal funding in that, and I'm not sure about state funding, but if you were to give us the go today to do it, I would say it'd be at least 5 years before we can even begin to think about construction.
Yeah, it'll be a lengthy NEPA front-end clearance process with the planning.
And
It'll
dealing
take-
with the railroad is like, dealing with
The railroad.
the railroad. Mhm.
Sounds like we need to get started.
Yeah. Well, what do we, I would agree that, we need to do something there, to help. What would be the next step in this? Obviously, we have this, the estimated costs of building it and so forth. What's the next thing to do?
Well, before you get very far along, you've got to be able to determine how you're going to finance something like this. And currently, there's no method to do that. I think these days the federal funding's pretty well dried up. We're talking about the same issue that you would have with building a bridge over I-35. There's just not money falling down out of trees out of there with federal grants or federal dollars. Just do not exist. We've applied for those Tiger grants and all in the past, and those are pretty few and far between these days. These are major project grants that we applied for on the bridge. So in my opinion, it will come down to, at some point or another, asking the voters or citizens of the community to approve a bond issue to do this. we're talking, let's say, $12 million in current dollars, with issuance cost and with cost projections on increases, we're talking probably a 15 or more $1 million bond issue to be able to do this some years in the future. So you all may need to have a study session on it where we can look at it some more or something like that. You also need to be really aware that there's some very significant impacts at 4th, more so on 12th, but also on 4th with regard to a number of businesses down there, one of which is a member of your own city council. His business is over there and would be impacted by this. So again, it's just something you need to be aware of.
And I wonder about something like that, if just the residents and business owners in that area would be in favor of the underpass. The rest of us that live north or south of 4th and aren't over there very often, it might not be a
Well, it may not hurt to have a public hearing or a public meeting on this and invite people in to give their railroad stories. We get complaints fairly frequently about the train stopped on the railroad. You know, and we have 2 existing underpasses, and Norman is just getting one now.
their first
So
one.
we're really much better off than we might think we are, but again, it'd be nice to have another one. But it's not gonna be inexpensive or easy.
I'd be all about us doing some type of a hearing and work study at some point. You know, I think this is something that we at least need to get some input from the citizens to see what they think. I know I live over there, and I swear every time I go through, there's a train stopped. I'm sure that's not true, but you know. In your study, do you have any opinion on whether or not train traffic will increase or decrease over the years?
No,
No idea?
I do
Okay.
not. We based everything on the current schedule of what they run.
Does then the rail company, they just do their own thing, or do they have in mind, you know, the city and the infrastructure or the issues, traffic problems, or are they really concerned about that at all?
And they pretty much do their own thing.
Do what they're gonna do?
Yeah.
They were here first.
Yep.
And they're only, aren't they only regulated through federal regulations?
Yes.
So we can't do anything.
Yeah.
But we can do that. I mean, we can set up a public meeting at some point, or a meeting to invite comments and
As business owners, like Councilwoman suggested, maybe even, and see what their thoughts are too.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about the little shops over there that
Mhm.
just got built here a few years ago.
Yeah.
The Eaton Air place that's right there.
Yep.
The office building, there's a couple of office buildings on the east side of the road. None of those would have any access at all to 4th Street anymore. The little Santa Fe Drive there, which is a through street, would be completely cut off. And we'd have to buy right away again from the school. And then we'd have to buy right away also from the 2 property owners that we've had some discussions about as far as the park area over there as well. So that might be a double opportunity there for us. But again, we can set up something and go from there. And can you do some sort of a bigger size drawing that'll show some perception as far as the depth we're talking about of the underpass and how it's going
Right.
to actually affect those businesses and the properties over there?
Yeah, we can, if you guys are gonna proceed with any kind of meetings and that type of thing, we can prepare drawings to support that.
All right, we'll visit with Taylor some more and then work something out.
Okay.
Would you be able to provide a time frame as far as for construction process, or,
How long construction will take?
yeah?
Well, I agree with what Steve said, his time frame of if we started now through the end of the deal. Referring to the one in Norman, I know there has been delays
Mhm.
with construction, and it's taken longer than expected. So you can't really factor that in, but it should be anticipated that, it'll
A
take
year?
time.
That one's been going through.
Well, just, if they got through all the red tape and you were gonna do it and you go out there with the machines, how long would that take?
Well, project like this, typically a year, you know, to get something like this built, but I know that they had a lot of delays that affected that outside of normal projects.
The construction's not gonna be the main thing, it's gonna be the getting to the point to be able to
Yeah.
construct something.
Well, delays can be incurred during construction as well, with the railroad and their construction specifications. They'll have an inspector on site, and it's because we'll be building the bridge for their trains, so they'll be watching every step of the way. And projects that have that included, typically there's extra levels of challenges and delays can result from that, whether it be materials or any other type of problem.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you all.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Item number 4 is consider a budget supplement to the GO Bond Fund in the amount of $1,075,000, to the General Fund in the amount of $450,000, and to the Debt Service Fund in the amount of $552,000. Jim?
Mayor and Council, this is a year-end budget supplement request. The increase requested for the GO Street bonds and also the GO Debt Service, the funds are there. They're in the bank account. This is strictly a paper adjustment to reflect the actual expenses and activity for the year. The general fund supplement, if you approve item 9 here in a little bit, the funds will be there. We've had some cost increases that we maybe didn't anticipate this year in terms of some overtime cost and street repairs, but the funds will be there pending that transfer approval. But this is a typical year-end budget supplement request.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion we approve.
Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you both. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? No, would you call for the vote, please?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 5 is consider approval of a contract with Johnson & Associates in the amount of $22,000 for design of a detention pond at Little River Park. This is an item we approved a couple weeks ago, wasn't it?
No, we haven't brought this before you. We may have discussed the project.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. You and I talked about it.
I think most of y'all are aware that we have approximately 25 acres of undeveloped parkland at Little River Park. It lies south of the cemetery and south of Southgate Baptist on the west side of the creek. And after completion of the master plan, we have plans to develop that next phase of Little River Park. And then when Dick's Sporting Good come along, we had the opportunity to sell them some dirt for their pad site. Basically, what we accomplished was a free pond. Well, then in discussions with the developers at Royal Rock, we would much rather see that property developed as commercial as detention needs for that development. And that's located there on 19th west of the channel there to Max Morgan Boulevard. So basically what these, if approved, it'll be a hydraulic analysis for stormwater detention. There'll be survey data that'll have to be collected. And the end result will be, we'll take care of the necessary detention on Royal Rock development, and they'll pay the fee in lieu of. And then the pond itself, the sale of that dirt has, for the most part, taken care of the excavation of that pond. It's a little convoluted, a little lengthy, but that's basically what has happened. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them. And this engineering is necessary so that we can verify that we have necessary detention for that development. There's a history of litigation in that basin, as you're well aware.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Make Motion that we approve.
All right, thank you.
Second?
Thank you.
I was gonna say, it's similar to what we did on the east side of the creek in the park where the two ponds are now. Those are amenities and nice-looking ponds, and that's where the fishing derby is and this and that, but those are actually detention facilities as well. So,
And we are gonna put fish in that one too, right? We talked
you're
about
gonna
it.
stock that pond on the west side too, the new one?
People love those.
Yes.
Okay, good. Sounds good. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, let's call for the vote, please.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 6 is consider awarding bid number 112-013, mowing and nuisance abatement to Property Image Solutions.
Mayor and council, last week we did open our bids for our code enforcement mowing and nuisance abatement. And if you recall, our current contractor has determined that the bid packet that he bid out, which was about 3 years ago, he no longer can make his money. And so the prices are too low, and he wanted to go ahead and have that rebid. He chose not to bid on it this time. We did have 2 bids that came in. The low bid is Property Image Solutions out of Norman, Oklahoma. And on page 93 of your packet, you can see the prices that came in for that bid. This is the lowest and the best bidder. We have had some experience with Property Image Solutions in the past, and they've always done good work for us, and we would recommend approval of Property Image Solutions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
That's so moved.
All right, thank you.
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on this item? It kind of surprised me, there's only 2 bids in all those packets that we sent out.
Yes.
Okay. That being said, would you call for the vote, please?
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 7 is discuss possible changes to the cemetery lot prices and grave staking and monument marking fees, and direct staff as deemed appropriate.
Mayor and council, there's a survey that Linda did that's a part of your packet. And basically, it's been over 10 years since we've addressed the fees at the cemetery. And the bottom line is, we're not paying the cost of the services we're providing. And that's on the grave staking and the monument sets. If you see, for a monument set, we're charging $10. Grave staking is $50. And basically, you've got two men involved in this process, and approximately 2 hours for each event. Our lots, you know, you look at municipal cemeteries, we're pretty well in line, but I feel like we need to look at cemeteries in our region, and we're way under what the going rate is. And what we have done is opened up the last phase of that cemetery. There's no future expansion. And we have numerous lots available, a number of lots, but still yet, there's no more room for expansion. So staff would recommend that the basic cemetery plot be raised from $850 to $1,000, and the cremation lots from $100 to $500, and the grave staking from $50 to $125, and the monument sets from $10 to $50. That's still well below the average in our area. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Don't have
I think it's still
it. Cheap.
a good price.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion. Go ahead, Mark.
I'll motion to approve it.
All right, thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Any other discussion? Anybody opposed? Not, would you call for the vote, please?
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. At this time, we'll recess the city council meeting and convene the Moore Public Works Authority meeting. Item number 8 is the consent docket. Item A is receive and approve the minutes of the regular Moore Public Works Authority meeting held June 4th, 2012. Item B is approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2011-2012 in the amount of $282,837.31.
Make a motion to approve?
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on claims or expenditures or changes, notes to the minutes? Not, we have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. Item number 9 is consider a residual equity transfer from the MPWA to the general fund in the amount of $1,500,000. This is from finance that Jim talked about a while ago. Annual transfer.
This is a item that's required to come to the council because it's an inter-fund transfer. It's a transfer from our Moore Public Works Authority Trust Fund to the general fund. On page 102, there's a memo that itemizes some reasons for this. We've had some costs that were greater than we anticipated this fiscal year. There's several of them listed there: overtime, fuel, our Moore Sorrento liability or sales tax rebate was greater than we budgeted. Part of that is because we went ahead and paid 2 additional months. That agreement went through the end of February this year, and in prior years it had been strictly a calendar year basis. So there was 2 additional months that we went ahead and paid that and finished that payment off. Of course, our street repairs typically are greater than we anticipate. The bottom line, the general fund needs this transfer to meet its budgetary requirements and finish the year on a positive fund balance note. So we're asking for your approval on that.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Make motion we approve.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? This is something we annually do every year.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No, would you call for the vote? Thank you.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. At this time, we'll recess the Moore Public Works Authority meeting and convene the Moore Risk Management meeting. Item number 10 is the consent docket. Item A is receive and approve the minutes of the regular Moore Risk Management meeting held June 4th, 2012. Item B is approve and ratify claims and expenditures for FY 2011-2012 in the amount of $107,339.
Make a motion to approve?
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on these items? Any notes or changes to the minutes or the claims? Not, we have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes, item carries. This time we'll recess the Moore Risk Management meeting and convene the Moore Economic Development Authority meeting. And
Item 11 is the roll call.
Robert Kraus,
Present.
Jason Blair, Kathy Griffith,
Here.
Glenn Lewis.
here,
David Roberts,
Here.
Mark Ham,
Here.
Terry Kavner.
Item 12 is the consent docket. Item A is receive and approve the minutes for the regular Moore Economic Development Authority meeting held May 21st, 2012. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Will you call for the vote?
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis,
Yes.
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith.
Yes, motion carries. This time, we'll recess the Moore Economic Development Authority meeting and reconvene the City Council meeting.
All right, thank you. Let the record reflect all the members that were present before are still here. Item number 13 is new business, citizens forum for items not on the agenda. The first one here is Whitney Haynes. Okay. If you would, please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Whitney Hughes. I currently live at 705 Penn Lane. We just moved here this week. I'm here seeking city approval. In the code enforcement guidelines, goats are listed as an agricultural farm animal, but there is no subtitle for a separate breed of goat. I am the owner of a small pygmy goat. He stands no more than 16 inches tall right now. They usually vary between 17 and peak at 23 inches, which is just under 2 feet. He currently weighs 25 pounds. They don't normally get more than 60. The city code also allows for each resident to own up to 4 dogs and no more than 4 dogs, but there is no regulation on how large those dogs can be. My pygmy goat is substantially smaller than our husky breed dog that we do have, and he is a comparable size to our dachshund breed dog that we have. A few facts about pygmy goats. Due to their small size, pygmy goats are often kept as pets rather than for meat or for milk production. There are many reasons why pygmy goats make good pets. The cleanliness of the pygmy goat is a lot different than what you would consider a normal agricultural farm animal. Their diet contains no meat, so that goat droppings don't have an offensive odor. Uncastrated males may produce an odor during their season of heat, but a castrated male produces no such odor, and so therefore that is not an issue. My pygmy goat is male and he is castrated. He's also vaccinated. A single pygmy goat kept as a pet has none of the objectionable odors typically associated with livestock, simply because they are small and not kept in a barnyard environment with other large animals. Pygmy goats are not aggressive by nature, although they are very playful. There has not been a single documented case of anyone being killed or seriously injured by a pygmy goat. They have no upper teeth. They're only teeth on the lower bottom of their jaw, so they don't bite. If a small child were to come to contact, it's no more than a pinch. It doesn't break the skin, so they're also not nearly as vicious as a dog can be. They don't have paws. They have cleft hooves, so they can't crawl underneath the fence. They can't run loose. They actually prefer to be in their confined space. Pygmy goats are not prime carriers of rabies or other diseases transmittable to humans or other animals. Pygmy goats normally are not normally noisy animals. They don't keep your neighbors awake like a barking dog or a yelling tomcat. They're very peaceful animals and do well in either residential or agricultural surroundings. Pygmy goats are creatures of routine. Once they learn their territory, they're normally sufficiently happy within their surroundings. They're not great fence jumpers, so an adequate fence, depending on your size of animal, would be fine. We have a privacy fence on each side of our property, so that would not be a problem. A single pygmy goat kept as a pet needs relatively little space. A nice sized backyard is more than efficient for a small goat. Goats are browsers rather than grazers and do not decimate the lawn, so there wouldn't be any issue of the backyard being desecrated. Many residential areas that have zoning restrictions on agriculture animals will allow a pygmy goat to be kept as a domesticated pet as long as it can be shown the goat is not being kept for agricultural purposes. I'm not the type of person to go outside and milk a goat. It's a dog to us. He sits, he stays, he jumps and plays with you. He's like another dog. There are a growing number of Ohio counties that are establishing pygmy goat classes. This allows young children that live in residential areas to participate in 4-H projects that they would not normally be accustomed to. According to the New York Times, some Chicago residents have become particularly fond of pygmy goats, valued for their desirable compact size. Again, they max out about 17 to 23 inches. Out in a yard, pygmy goats can easily pass as a dog. As in Chicago, keeping a pygmy goat is also legal in San Francisco. You just can't sell the milk or the cheese from the byproducts. According to San Francisco health codes, donkeys, mules, cows, and goats, basically all even-toed hooved animals, require a permit, although pot-bellied pigs, which the city of Moore will allow, and pygmy goats are typically defined as domesticated pets. If you can have a 250-pound dog, why would it not be okay to have such a small animal. And I did actually bring a life-size model of my pet. Leslie, would you mind holding that up? I threw this together yesterday. This is actual size. I took measurements, and we're in the process of moving here, so I literally threw this together with the items I had left over at our house last night, just to give you an idea of how large it would be. He's really important to me. He was a gift. You know, I love our animal, and I would hate to have to move to the city of Moore and not be able to keep a member of our family. So I'm asking that pygmy goats be kept in the city ordinance as a domesticated pet. So
Would we have to change our ordinance to include something like that? And would it open up the floodgates of other types of goats and sheeps and?
We had this discussion very similar to this some years ago with regard to the small pigs, pot-bellied pigs. And you said that we allow them. I don't know that
the
we do.
Vietnamese pot-bellied pig is allowed within the city ordinance, as are chickens.
I think chickens are.
I wonder if it's because some parts of Moore are still farm, if it's was here years ago or not.
I know that I do live in Ward 3. Terry Kavner and Jason Blair were the ward members of my, or the council members of the ward. I tried getting a hold of them this week, and I was hoping they would be here, as we've never spoken or met, but.
Well, Jason Blair's our expert on goats, so make sure you contact him.
Is he really?
He'll be the one that you want to talk to.
I'd be curious, the Water Animal Control, what their input would be on it.
Well, we would need to take a look at it and see if there's any other cities that are doing this. It's not something you'd want to just do just without quite a bit of discussion and thought and probably some hearings and that sort of thing, because frankly, we have enough difficulty with the general animal pets that people have. And, you know, I don't know anything about those animals. First we've heard of it, so all we can do is say we can look into it if you like.
Maybe we can look into it and also go back to that cat issue we have about not limiting the number of cats people have too. That we just kind of examine that all together at once, maybe.
We have a cat problem going on right now in another area.
Yeah, for you guys on the council who don't know, we basically regulate it to like 300 or 400 cats or something ridiculous. So
37 of them.
yeah, it's a
37
huge
cats.
number. So yeah, maybe we can look at that all together at once.
You know, I think this is a legitimate issue to look at, and
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
because from what she has described, if that holds true, why I'd rather have one of those living behind me than a dog.
Yep. Is there any chance you could maybe email us some of the information you have,
I-
or get to Steve Eady, our city manager, and he can send it to us maybe?
I could. I got all of the information that I have, either from Google or from Raising Goats for
Okay.
Dummies,
All right.
which is it was a gift from my mother. And I tell you what, this tells you everything you need to know about a standard goat, but it does include the pygmies, which everything you need to know about a standard goat is the same for the pygmy, except it's just miniature. So, but he's been vaccinated, he's been neutered, he's been trained. I mean, he fits in our dog's pet carrier. So when he has to come in, like, we bring him into our indoor-outdoor room during the storms, and they sleep in a pet crate that you can buy at PetSmart.
So had someone complained, or how did you know to come to us tonight?
I looked it up, and what the book actually said, if you live in a residential area, to ask. Well, we are currently living in Verdon, Oklahoma, which is a rural community, so it's not an issue, and there's not any problems. And our neighbors love it. The kids, we have tons of neighborhood kids, and they come over. The adults too. I mean, everybody just loves our goats. It's like a fun little attraction, and I love having them. And the thought of giving him up just makes me just sorry.
I would agree with Councilman Kraus, just forward that information to Steve Eady that you have.
Or Jason Blair, your council member.
Yeah, Jason is great.
So yeah, I'd be willing to do whatever we need
He has a
to.
strong
You know.
background in that area.
Yes, he does.
Okay, we're just kidding. We'll take a look at it.
All right, thank you. I appreciate
Here you
it.
go. This has my email address on it. Just anything you have that you think would be helpful or links, just send them to me.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
teach Jason not to show up.
Yeah. Sean Love?
Hey guys, my name is Sean Lovell. I live in Oklahoma City at the intersection of Hill and Walker. Did you guys have a good weekend? Good. Thank the unions. Also for the 8-hour workday. I understand that you guys recently decided to end your contract with ASME. I personally think this is a horrible idea, and I'd like you to reconsider. Countless men, women, and children have sacrificed their lives to ensure collective bargaining rights. The Ludlow Massacre, the Latimer Massacre, the Heron Massacre, the Haymarket Riot, the Panama Massacre, I could go on. Now I understand that this is a recession, times are hard, you might not want to give your employees negotiating rights for their workplace, but I think it's a bad idea. No, you were clever. You didn't include the fire or the police when you did this. It's the same thing that they did in Wisconsin. But I mean, where do you draw the line? When are you gonna take away the police and fire union rights? Undermining union potency is the first step towards the privatization of markets. What this means is that you're commodifying human rights. I don't want health inspectors, city planners, sanitation workers, and teachers. I don't want their job performance dictated by a profit margin. And when you take away ASME's right to negotiate their workplace, then you're taking yourself down a road that is going to end in profit, not morals, not general human welfare, but profit, dictating who teaches our children, what our children are taught, who determines whether a restaurant should stay open, whether it's healthy and sanitary. I don't think these are things that we want. I beseech you to respect the great heritage of this country, the men and women who've died. I think it's important to remember that when firefighters were privatized, they used to just roll right by a house if it was burning to the ground if they weren't on your payroll. And when are you guys going to decide next that it will be more convenient to undermine the fire union's right to negotiate their workplace? I'm just asking you guys, read a little, do a little research, and think, like, which is more important? The bottom line of a budget? Or the future that your children are going to inherit? That's all I got.
Thank you. Francis Whitman?
Good afternoon, Glenn Lewis, Mayor, Steve Eady, City Manager, and council members. I am Francis Whitman. I was currently a student athlete at Mid-America Christian University. In 2010, I was recognized as the All-American in the Christian Nationals and third team in NAIA. I am now the office manager for ASHME Local 2406. I'm standing before you today to speak about the benefits of the union. While attending MACU, Mid-America Christian University, the union has supported our boys and girls basketball team. An example is when we had road trips, William Browse, the union president, would come with little goodie look bags and drinks and for our trip. And being a student in college is we feel very fortunate to having stuff like that because profits aren't right at that time. It gave us as a team confidence, and it gave us a sense of pride that we never wanted to give our fans, let down. And we wanted to do good for them. Another benefit the union has gave ASHME Union was when the more cheerleaders who 2011, 2012 had won nationals. They're here today for ASHME. The union has sponsored the youth football, basketball, and softball. I brought the Oklahoma Guardian, and in the picture is William Browse with his youth basketball girls, and he's coaching them. I just thought it was a really good piece to look at. Ashby's given the softball team a banner. Southmore and Westmore received ads from us for their high school programs. Sports helps shape children's lives and gives them a positive outlook. It gives them responsibility, leadership, confidence, and growth. The better the program, the better experience they can obtain. The youth is our future, and I want our community to be better. The union plays an important part of our community. David Johnston and Bob Cameron put a car show together and raised a sizable donation that went to the American Red Cross of Cleveland County. If the Ashby Union goes away, so does the funds and support for our community. The union protects the citizens of Moore. The citizens have their families, their livelihood, and their future. Please understand the City of Moore would like to be recognized as a union. Not only will this affect the union, but it also will affect the community. Thank you.
Thank you. E. Silva.
Mayor, Council, good to be here. I'm a citizen of Tulsa. My name is Eli Silva. I drove all this way because I care about public workers' rights. And as my friend Sean put it before me, this country has a history of protecting labor rights and ensuring a labor dream for everyone, ensuring that if you work a day, you get a fair wage and you get to support your family. And what we've seen is the erosion of the family unit, and we can blame that on politics, we can blame it on liberalism, we can blame it on television and media, but ultimately what we really should blame it on is the economic factors, where parents are out of the house working 60+ hours a week to support themselves and their families, where parents, single mothers, are working 80 hours a week to try and put food on tables, and those workers are not allowed to organize, they're not allowed to support each other and stand together as they bargain. And what we really need to look at is the erosion of American culture and the isolation of individuals from each other. And I would ask you to reconsider your position on the AFSCME union and their contract because of this great country and what it stands for, because of workers' rights. And if we begin with workers' rights and we dismantle those, we put our entire city under the burden of profit, as Sean said. We put sanitation workers at the mercy of corporations that can buy out their voices and can buy out their regulations left and right. And that may be great for short-term money, but it's not good for long-term if you're trying to build a just and equitable community. And what we really need to consider is who at the end of the day are we trying to serve? All of you are elected officials. You were voted in not for corporate interests, not for the interests of banks and energy companies. You're not voted in to make sure that the Chamber of Commerce has exactly what they want. You were voted in for the men and women who stand behind me, the men and women who are in this room today, who are asking you to reconsider, who are saying that they want to be public workers, and what that means is sharing in a common society. And as we dismantle the commons, we lose what it means to be an American. That's all.
Thank you very much. David Johnson.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Edie, I'm here again because my members want me to be here. I'm their spokesman. I have here a receipt for a registered letter. We sent one more letter, a request to negotiate, registered mail to Mr. Edie. We still haven't received a response. I don't know if you've received it yet. I think you have.
I did receive it.
Frankly, that's just bad business not to respond. I mean, call me and tell me, send me an email, something. Don't let me read about it in the paper. I gave you all a handout on savings. $304,000. And this isn't an instant savings. It's going to be over the lifetime of these 8 to 12,000 trash cans, extending their life instead of throwing them away. Because we were throwing them away. I can only stick so many of them in the yard. And as you know, you voted on $20,000 twice already this year for just 425 garbage cans. That's 850 garbage cans, and I went through them pretty quick. I'm well on my way into going through some more. The union saves the city money in lawsuits. In the last 3 years, there was the potential for 3 lawsuits. One over racial issues, one over age issues, age discrimination, and another one was over a union official being intimidated. The potential for lawsuits, while you have the union, are very slim. The potential for lawsuits without the union are very great. The potential for training for the employees with the union is greater than without. And the city of Moore, I guarantee you, could use some training for its employees. A well-trained employee is an efficient employee. You know, do you want us just to come to work every day, do our 8 hours, and go home with no thought to maybe saving the city a buck? You know, every once in a while I've got to go to Home Depot. They have a variety of paints at Home Depot. You know what? I buy the 97-cent can because basically it's all paint. I choose the color I need and I buy the cheapest that I can get. Why? Because it's the smart thing to do. But if I'm just a worker bee, if I'm just gonna put in my 8 hours every day, why should I care whether I buy the $6 can of paint or whether I buy the 97-cent can of paint? And you know, and that goes with everything. It goes with equipment upkeep, taking care of your vehicle, making sure it's clean, making sure it's got oil in it, making sure it's got air in the tires. You know, somebody that doesn't have a voice or recognition in their job, why should they care? Mr. Mayor, it's a symbiotic relationship. Two sides have to care about each other. In any relationship, the two sides have to care about each other. If one side doesn't care what happens to the other side, why should the other side care about anything? It's just like a marriage. I want to read to you guys from the book of Isaiah 37, verses 27 through 29. Therefore, their inhabitants were of small power. They were dismayed and confounded. They were as the grass of the field and the green herb, as the grass on the housetops, and as the corn blasted before it be grown up. But I know thy abode, and thy going out and thy coming in, and thy rage against me. Because of thy rage against me, and thy tumult is come up into mine ears. Therefore I will put my hook in thy nose, and my bridle in thy lips, and I will turn thee back by the way by which thou camest. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anybody else? No, I think that's it. All right. Item B is items from the city council or trustees. Anybody?
Just have one quick thing. Mr. Drake, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry. On York Road, I've noticed y'all, it's moving along pretty well, and just curious as to how that's going. And,
Which road?
Yorkshire.
We've got all the stabilization in, curb and gutter, corn sidewalks, and I think we're gonna lay the asphalt in the latter part, the first part next week.
Okay, great. I've gotten 3 calls from people that live over there, and they haven't been complaining about the mud, but they're glad that it's happening. Looking forward to having a better street and sidewalks. So
It
awesome.
already looks much better.
Yeah, it does.
That's very nice.
It really does.
Anybody else?
I was just gonna mention, as far as Yorkshire, we're also gonna be doing Tudor Drive and part of Windermere, in Regency Park.
Okay.
We're doing some water line work now on Tudor and on part of Windermere. And that street's in real bad shape, so we'll be moving in over there. And then our residential street crew is gonna go from there down to South Glen Addition, which is the 34th and South Broadway area. There's some streets, and I don't know the specific names of streets, but in South Glen, there's some really bad streets. So we're trying to get our crews around
Even
town, to different areas, and also keeping in mind getting to the worst ones first.
So, I have one little thing here. This is a deal that Randy Terrell sent out, has my picture on it with him. And Randy and I are friends. I do owe the city council an apology apparently because they're not listed on the economic development, but like I said, I didn't do the flyers. And Terry called me, he said, you didn't give credit to the city council, and it's like, it's not my flyer. So anyway, just to let you know, I do appreciate you guys. I know you guys did the economic development part. So, and he also said I was dissing Derry Stacy, and I apologize to Mr. Stacy. I think he's a fine candidate too, so I don't really have a dog in that race, but just thought I'd let you know. So, moving on with that, items from the city manager, trust manager.
Just a couple of things, Mayor. One is just to let you know that Northwest Fifth Street Bond Issue Project that's been under construction for some time. We're beginning to see the end of that, probably in another 2 weeks, and maybe a couple of weeks. And probably we'll see the traffic signals there at I-35 and Fifth Street, perhaps by the end of this week, come on. It's gonna be a little different for folks because it's the new standard light that's got the yellow flashing arrows on those, so we kind of watch out for those a little bit because they're different in how those operate. The signs out there will tell you how it operates, but it's just a little different when you see one the first time. So Stan mentioned the ditch project. That dirt work's complete. They've started on the construction of the piers and all that over there, so that's a good thing that's moving along. There's good work now going on the Public Safety Center. Galen's kind of our watchdog on that project. I think it's pouring some concrete today and finally seeing some good construction on that, so that's
Good.
happy to see that. And our wastewater treatment plant project, Robert tells me that it's about in the neighborhood of 80% complete. We're still shooting for, the contractor tells us, they're going to make the November deadline for startup, or beginning of startup on that project. So, long time coming, and we've had probably more issues of late with the odor than we would like, but there is an absolute end to that in the next few months inside. So that's all I have at this point.
Okay. At this time, we'll recess item number 14 is executive session. Section 307, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes permits the public body to meet in executive session for certain specified reasons under certain specified conditions. It is the opinion of the city attorney that the city council may consider and adopt a motion to meet in executive session to discuss the following item. It should be items. Item A is discuss, consider, and if deemed appropriate, consider taking possible action regarding pending claim filed by William G. Hogue against the city of Moore and authorization for legal counsel and staff to take actions as necessary and appropriate in the interest of the city of Moore as authorized by 25 Oklahoma statutes 307B-4. Item B, do we have a vote to go into executive session? We have a motion?
Make a motion to approve?
All right, thank you. Have a second?
Second.
All right, would you call for the vote, please? We have a motion and a second.
Robert Kraus,
Yes.
Kathy Griffith,
Yes?
David Roberts,
Yes.
Mark Ham,
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.
Yes. Item carries. We're going to reconvene to executive session. Thank you for coming.
Robert Kraus. Kathy Griffith. David Roberts.
Here.
Mark Ham. Glenn Lewis.
Here. Item A is discuss, consider, and deem appropriate, consider taking possible action regarding pending claim filed by William G. Hope against the city of Warren, authorization for legal counsel and staff to take action as necessary and appropriate in the interest of the city of Warren, authorized by Oklahoma statutes, 307B-4. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to proceed as directed. Make a motion to deny claim.
All right, thank you.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Please call for the vote, please.
Kathy Griffith.
Yes.
David Roberts.
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes.
Robert Kraus. Glenn Lewis.
Yes. Item is denied. Next item is adjournment.
I would make a motion to.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
David Roberts.
Yes.
Mark Ham.
Yes.
Robert Kraus. Kathy Griffith.
Yes.
Glenn Lewis.